All right, so today we're starting 8.2 notes. And in 8.2, you'll notice that our learning goal is that I can write two-step equations by annotating word problems. And you'll notice that it says that we can write two-step equations. It doesn't say anything about solving them. And that's because today we are just going to figure out how to set up those word problems, because tomorrow is when we're actually going to learn how to solve two-step equations. Yesterday, we learned how to solve one step, and so today we need to know how to set up the equation so that way we can then turn around and solve it tomorrow. So in order to write equations, we must first annotate word problems. And in order to annotate these word problems, we need to know a few things. So a lot of the times in math, they use specific words that mean certain operations. And so below is a list of the most common that you will see in word problems. These are not all of them, but these are the ones that you'll see the most. And so these words seem very simple: is, of, more, less. But in math, they have kind of a different meaning. So whenever we see the word is, this means equals in a word problem. So that means that if something is, that means it means that something equals. Of means multiply. More means add. And less means subtract. And these are not all of the words, but like I said, they are the most common that you'll see in these word problems. Make sure that if you need to pause the video to get down all of the notes, if I'm going too fast, that is completely okay to do. All right, let's look at our first word problem. So the length of an average toucan is about 2/3 the length of an average blue and yellow macaw. Toucans are about 24 inches long. Write an equation that represents the situation. So it says just to write an equation. Since it only says to write, that means that we're just going to set it up. We're not actually going to solve it today. So let's go through and annotate this word problem. The average length of a toucan. So we know that there's going to be some length of a toucan. And it is, and we know that actually means equal. So I'm going to put an equal sign right above the is, because I know that the average toucan equals about 2/3. I write 2/3 as a fraction. So I'm going to look over here. It's on the other side of my equals. So I have 2/3 the length of an average blue and yellow macaw. So we know that it is of, so we are multiplying. I'm going to use the dot because you'll notice that we keep using letters in our equations, and a lot of the times we use an x, and so we don't want to use the x for multiplication and the x variable. So you'll notice in this unit I either switch to just parentheses or just the dot. That way we don't get confused if it is a letter or a multiplication sign. So we know that it's 2/3 of the average macaw. And I do not actually know if I'm saying that word right, but just go with it. So now it says that toucans are about 24 inches long. So we know that this actually is the length of my toucan. So when I write my equation now, I know the average length of my toucan is actually 24 inches. So 24 equals 2/3 of the average macaw, and I don't know what the average macaw is. And that's okay. That is just going to be my variable. So when you don't know the number or it doesn't give you a number, you're going to put a variable. So make sure that you copy that part down. It's a good reminder to know that sometimes they don't give you all the information, especially in this topic while we're writing equations. And so when they don't give you a value, it means that that is your variable. All right, so let's go on to the next one. A zookeeper takes care of 5 mountain lions. The keeper orders 32 pounds of meat for each day. Each mountain lion receives the same amount, so we know that it's fair. Write an equation, or what equation, so we need to write one, can you use to find how much meat the mountain lion eats each day? So, we know that there are 5 mountain lions. And we know that the keeper orders 32.5 pounds of meat for them. So if they order 32.5 pounds, we know that it's our total food and it has to be equal so that 5 lions get the same amount per day. So our total amount in pounds was 32.5 pounds. We know that there are 5 lions, but we don't know how much they get per day. And so per, anytime you see per, this also means we're multiplying. So I'm going to go back and add a multiplication sign in between there. Now that I know that per means multiplying. So I know that there are 5 lions and they get the same amount of meat per day, but I don't know how many days. And that's okay. That just means that's going to be my variable. So over here, it's not the first one because that's division and we need multiplication. So nope. This one is 32.5 equals 5m. It's okay that they don't have the dot in between the 5 and the m. Mathematicians are really lazy, and so they typically don't write multiplication signs. They just put the letter right next to the number, and it means the same thing. The reason it's not C is because that's division. And then the reason that it's not D is because you're multiplying your total per day, and we don't want to multiply our total per day. We want to multiply how many lions get how much food per day. So it can't be this one. All right, so a photographer or a photography student wants to buy a digital camera that costs $269.95. Oh my goodness. Whoa, $269.95 camera. And she wants to make a down payment of $100 and pay the remainder in 5 equal monthly payments. So we know in words, and it's always better to write it in words first, that way you can kind of then go back in and plug in the information that we know. So we know that the cost, the total, has to equal everything else. So the cost is by itself. And that equals the down payment that she's going to place on the camera plus the number of payments times each the amount of each payment, because she's making this one payment 5 times. So we know that the cost was $269.95. So we plug that in for the cost. We know that our down payment was $100. So they plugged in 100. We know that we're adding that because it is a down payment, which means it's a one-time fee. Our number of payments, however, is not a one-time fee. We are doing that 5 times. And then we don't know how much each of those payments will actually be. We just know that we're going to do 5 other payments, all of the same amount of money. So when I write this in digits, you would write $269.95 equals my $100 down payment plus 5 payments of some amount. And this is your answer for today. Tomorrow we will be able to go back and actually solve that. So at this time, I want you to solve the next problem in your notes, which is this one. And you're going to do that on your own. And then we will check that on Monday. So this one you're going to do on your own. All right. So make sure that you pause that video and you got that one taken care of. So now we're going to go through the next 4 problems. And we're going to annotate those. And you are going to do B and D on your own. And again, we're going to check those on Monday. So 7, more, we know more meant add. Then twice, that means 2. A number, we don't know what that number is, so I'm just going to put an X there because I don't know what that is. Is means equals 17. So do you see how just annotating that sentence and writing it above it, I already have found out my equation because I know that 7 plus 2x equals 17 just by annotating that first problem. So just so you have an idea, product means that you're multiplying 2 numbers together. So I want you to make sure that you know that word before trying to annotate that one. Again, you're doing B and D on your own. C, the difference, that means we're going to be subtracting between twice a number, and I don't know what that number is, so I'm going to put an X, and 7, and we knew that we're subtracting, so that is going to go in between those, is 17. So I have 2x minus 7 equals 17. And again, you're going to do B and D alone. All right, so that's actually all that we are going to do for today's notes, because annotating is one of those things that you just need to get in there and start doing it in order to fully understand what it is that you're doing. And so I want you guys to practice. So now you're going to start your homework. And before you start your homework, I want you to go back to yesterday's notes and fill out the summary section of yesterday's notes and try to explain that to somebody who maybe wasn't here the day before. So if they read your summary, they would have a full understanding of what happened yesterday. So again, start your homework. You will need a work page, and the rest of the hour is yours.